This is the run through for the B2C2P2 higher past paper 2. Remember, you have all these equations on the front of your paper. Use them in the physics section in particular. So the first section is the biology section. So it says this question is about classifying. Read the article about a species that was first discovered in 2009. So the year of the green bomber, it says. The green bomber is an annelid worm that lives at depths below 1800 meters in the seas off California. At these depths it is very dark. Otherwise known as Swima bombiviridis, the green bomber worm gets its name from the green oval structures near its head. When the worm sheds them, they briefly glow in the dark with a brilliant green light. The green oval structures are thought to be helpful in escaping from predators. Swima bombiviridis is a newly discovered species. What is meant by the term species? So 2 marks here. 1 for saying it's capable of interbreeding or its mating produces offspring. And then saying that those offspring are fertile is your 2nd mark. So first mark is saying that it can mate or reproduce or have offspring. 2nd mark is saying that those offspring are fertile. Next question. Swima bombiviridis. Doesn't matter if you can't say that or can't read it, it's not really important. It has been named using the binomial system. What are the 2 parts of the name identified? Put ticks in the boxes next to the 2 correct answers. So your first box should be the genus and then the species. It's more likely to survive at depths below 800 meters than other worms. This is because of its green oval structures. Suggest how the green oval structures make it more likely to survive. So 2 marks here. 1 for saying, or you get any 2 of these rather. You could say it avoids predators by distraction, or it can scare off predators. You could say that it attracts their food source, or it could act as bait. And you could say it attracts mates to increase the chance of reproducing. A similar species of worm lives in shallow waters, does not have green oval structures. Scientists think that Swima bombiviridis evolved from the ancestors of a species that lives in shallow waters. Explain how a population of worms with green oval structures may have become separate species. So this is all to do with natural selection. So you could say, it's any 3 of these. You can say some worms had green oval structures and some worms did not. You could say that green oval structures allowed worms to live in deep water. And then you could talk about there was isolation between worms in deep and shallow water, and then you can say that there was independent evolution between the 2 groups, or you could say they adapted differently. So any 3 of those 4 points would get you those 3 marks. So this next question is a 6-mark question for the biology section, so please mark this yourself using the mark scheme that's on the Blue Coat Science Google site, and then ask your teacher if you'd like it checking. Next question, look at the picture of a Caribbean iguana. Read the article about a project to help Caribbean iguanas. The main threats to the survival of Caribbean iguanas are habitat loss and predation by cats and dogs which eat the young iguanas. 2 conservation programs are proposed. The first conservation program, called Head Starting, involves collecting young iguanas from the wild and raising them in captivity until they are large enough to survive in the wild. Second program involves captive breeding from a small number of adults in a zoo. The young iguanas produced are released into the wild. Winston is in charge of setting up the program. He believes that captive breeding would be more effective than head starting. Use information to evaluate how successful captive breeding might be. So 3 marks again, and there's a number of things you could say. So any 3 of these. You could say that the genetic variation is limited, or there's a reduced gene pool. You could say that the predators or habitat loss is still present. You could say that captive breeding avoids having to collect the young iguanas from habitat. You could say they may not breed well in captivity. Could say that more iguanas will be released because young are more likely to survive in captivity. You could say that animals raised in captivity may not survive well when released, as they don't have experience living in the wild. Or you could say that young and small animals released into the wild are less likely to survive than larger ones released by the head starting. So any 3 of those points get you those 3 marks. Look at the food chain. There it is. Studying food chains often involves constructing pyramids of biomass. What information is needed to construct a pyramid of biomass? And that is simply the dry mass at each trophic level. If you didn't use the word dry, then you wouldn't get that mark. Look at the diagram. It shows all the energy transferred to and from a sparrowhawk. What process in the sparrowhawk's body releases heat? So that's respiration. That's the only thing you can put for that mark. So the next question is calculate the energy lost as heat. that's 0.89 kilojoules. The next question, some of the energy gained in food is transferred to growth and repair in the sparrowhawk. Work out the percentage of the energy gained in food which is transferred to growth and repair. So you're going to do 0.25 divided by 3.14, times that by 100 to work into percentage, and that equals 7.96%. You could also have 8 or 8.0, but you can't have 7.9. If you put 7.9, that will just get you 1 mark, because there will be incorrect rounding. The food chain has 4 trophic levels. Use your answer to part 2 and part 3 to explain why it does not have any more. So first mark saying that energy is lost at each stage, or the transfer at each stage is not very efficient, or you could say that a large amount of energy is lost. You have to say a large amount, you can't just put energy is lost. Or all energy is lost. So energy is lost at each stage, or a large amount of energy is lost. And then second mark saying that there's not enough energy for another trophic level. So there's your second mark. So now onto the chemistry section. First question is about fertilizers. Farmers use fertilizers to make crops grow bigger and faster. This increases crop yield. Explain how the fertilizers increases crop yield. So any two of these, you can say it replaces essential elements, or you could say that more nitrogen is used to make plant protein, or just nitrogen is used to make plant protein, and you can say phosphorus is used to make ATP. So just need to, any two of those 3 things get those 2 marks. Ammonium phosphate is used as a fertilizer. Write down the number of atoms in the formula NH4 3PO4. So you've got 3 lots of the stuff in this bracket. So you've got 5 atoms in NH4, but there's 3 lots of them, so that's 15 overall in that. Then you've got 1 from the phosphorus and 4 from the oxygens, so that equals 20. So you've got 20 atoms. Chloe makes some potassium nitrate by neutralising an alkali with nitric acid. Look at the diagram, it shows the apparatus she uses. Write down the name of the alkali Chloe uses to make potassium nitrate. So the alkali comes from this first word, and you just got to put hydroxide after the first word. So it's potassium hydroxide. Chloe adds nitric acid to the flask until the solution is neutral. Explain, using the ions involved, why the alkali is neutralised by the nitric acid. So really all they're asking here is for you to write the ionic equation for neutralisation. So you've got H plus OH minus makes H2O. If you wrote that the hydrogen ions react to the hydroxide ions, that would also get your marks if you put it in words. Or you could say the H plus reacts with the OH minus, or the H plus is balanced by the OH minus, or H plus is counteracted by the OH minus. That would all be fine and get you that mark. Look at the photograph of an erupting volcano. There were serious volcanic eruptions in many countries in 2010. Many people's homes were destroyed. Suggests why geologists did not predict all of these eruptions. So this is to do with 1 mark from these. You could say that equipment is required to predict eruptions, and that's expensive. You could say there's not enough geologists. You could say eruptions occur in remote parts of the world, or the eruptions may be underwater. Or you could say it's difficult to research magma beneath the Earth's surface. So any one of those will get you that mark. In 1914, Wegener used evidence to propose his continental drift theory. In the late 1950s, it became part of a new theory called plate tectonics. Today, the theory of plate tectonics is widely accepted by scientists. Explain why. So first, 2 marks here, you could say explains a wide range of the evidence, or there is now more evidence, or now there's lots of evidence. You could say the subsequent research has supported the theory, or it's been tested. Or you could put examples of specific evidence. So you could say that similar fossils are found in Africa and South America. You could say there's evidence of seabed spreading. Or you could say that Africa and South America fit together like a jigsaw puzzle. You could say that similar rocks are found in both Africa and South America. You need to make sure you use those continents, though. You can't just say in different continents. You've got to be specific. Africa, South America. So this next question is a 6-mark question in the chemistry section. So please can you mark this yourself, and ask your teacher if you're unsure whether you've marked it correctly, but try marking yourself first using the mark scheme that can be found on the Google site. Next question is about industrial processes. It says an industrial process makes sulfur trioxide. Sulfur dioxide reacts with oxygen. Sulfur trioxide is made. Write a balanced symbol equation. So 2 marks here. 1 for writing out. So just draw an arrow first and write what's made. It just tells you SO3 is made. and then it tells you SO2 plus O2, it reacts together. Now, you've got 4 oxygens on the left-hand side and 3 on the right-hand side, so you could put a half in front of the O2 to get the second mark, or you just put a 2 in front of the 2 in front of this and a 2 in front of that, and that would also balance it. You get 1 mark for the formulae being in the correct places, and then 1 mark for balancing. So everyone should be getting that first mark, really. A second industrial process makes an acid. Look at the table, it shows the percentage yield of the acid made at different temperatures and pressures. How does increasing the temperature change the percentage yield? So you can see that increasing the temperature, so you go from 200 to 400 to 600, in each case the percentage yield has gone down. So you could say it decreases, or it goes down. A temperature of 400 degrees, a pressure of 200 atmospheres, and a catalyst are used to make the acid. These conditions do not give the highest percentage yield, suggest why these conditions are chosen. So there's 3 marks, 1 for explaining each condition. So first, the catalyst increases the rate of reaction. That get the first mark. Second mark, talk about temperature. So a lower temperature would give a better yield, but would slow down the reaction. So you've got to give both points there for that second mark. A lower temperature would give a better yield, but would slow down the reaction. And then pressure, you could talk about that if you had a higher pressure, it would increase the plant cost, or it would be less safe. So that's why we don't go higher than that pressure. Chlorine is made by electrolysis of concentrated sodium chloride solution. Sarah investigates this electrolysis. Look at the apparatus she uses. Sodium chloride solution contains Na+, OH-, Cl-, and H+ ions. At the positive electrode, chloride ions lose electrons to make chlorine gas. Write the balanced ionic equation for this reaction and use that to represent an electron. So you just got to use the question to help you write it all out. Okay, so use the wording. So it tells you chloride ions, which are Cl-, I told you that up here. Loses electrons, so lose would be a minus sign, so loses electrons to make chlorine, Cl2. So that'll get you 1 mark. Second mark is balancing, so you can see there's 2 chlorines on this side, so you need to put a big 2 in front of that, and each chloride ion is going to lose an electron, so you also need a big 2 in front of that E- as well. Look at the list of ions in sodium chloride solution. 2 ions do not react to the electrodes. Write down the name of the solution these ions make. So you need the name rather than... Oh no, it will accept the formula as well. So the 2 ions that don't react are these 2. So you could put NaOH or sodium hydroxide, which is what the name of that is. Next question is about metals. Look at the table, it shows properties of 2 metals. Look at the picture of some power lines. The power company makes the power lines from iron surrounded by aluminium. Explain why the power company makes power lines from iron and aluminium. So use information from this table. So it gives you the density, which is linked to the mass, relative electrical conductivity, the relative strength, and the cost per tonne. There's 2 marks here. So you can say that aluminium is a good conductor of electricity, or it has a low density. Or you can say aluminium is lightweight, so there's your aluminium bit, so that'll get you 1 mark, but you can say that aluminium is not strong enough on its own, so has to be supported by iron, so you can see that it's not that strong, so iron's needed to support it. So you could also put that iron is used because it's stronger than aluminium. You could say that iron brings the cost down as well, iron is less expensive than aluminium, but you can't talk about the conductivity of iron, because that's the reason that aluminium is used, because it's more conductive. So the last section, the physics section, says electrical generators produce an alternating current. Graph A is the voltage time graph for an electrical generator. The frequency shown in the graph is 50 Hz. An alternating voltage produces an alternating current. On graph A, draw another line with a higher frequency. So you want at least 1 complete wave with a higher frequency. So if you have a higher frequency, that means there's more waves in the same space. And it doesn't really matter if you go higher than this wave or lower. You just need to make sure you get more waves in the same space. So I just double it up if I were you. So that means you're going to have 2 waves like that. Obviously this wave should probably be a bit lower, but you get the idea. You've got 1 wave in the space of half the wave there, another wave in the space of half the wave there. And you can carry that on all the way down if you wanted to. Like that. you probably drew it a little bit better than I did. Look at graph B. Does graph B show an alternating voltage? So yes, it does, but that doesn't get you the mark. The mark is for explaining by comparing it with graph A. So the mark is for saying that it changes from above to below the line, like graph A. Or you could say it changes from positive to negative, or it changes direction. If you put no, then you don't get any marks anyway. Stars are part of the universe. The end of the life cycle of a star depends on its mass. Put the life cycle stages from this list into the correct order for a large star. So you can start with a large star. You need to get all these in the right order. So you have red supergiant, next, then a supernova, then a black hole. The brightest supergiant stars in a galaxy have very high surface temperatures and appear blue in colour. Using powerful telescopes, these super bright stars can be observed in galaxies other than our own. Observations of the radiation emitted by these stars can help to accurately calculate the distance to these other galaxies and provides more evidence for the age of the universe. Explain the value of more than one team of scientists investigating these blue supergiants. So 2 marks here. Any two of these, you could say that teams of scientists look at different theories or views or ideas or opinions, or other people can develop the work further. You could say that teams bring different equipment or resources or technology or skills, or you could say something like more scientists do more research in less time, or more information can be found, or more people means work done faster. And the third kind of area for the mark is that different teams can take or check different measurements or data, or you could say that you can compare or check results or evidence, or share data or check reliability. So any two of those 3 different areas will get you those 2 marks. Tricia is a scientist investigating the radioactivity of a liquid. Tricia wants to measure the penetrating power of the radiation emitted. Alpha, beta and gamma radiation can be stopped by different materials. Which material will be the best material to show that alpha radiation is emitted? So they're basically asking what stops alpha. So paper or a few centimetres of air. If you just put paper, that will get you that mark. But for air, you have to say a few centimetres of air. She may have difficulty measuring the penetrating power of alpha radiation in a liquid. Suggests one of the problems she may have. So this is the idea that the glass would absorb the alpha, or the container. You could say that it's not safe to put the detector so close to the liquid. You get a mark for that. But it's more the fact that the glass... So if this stuff inside is radioactive, this glass would stop the alpha from getting out. Says here are results. She carried out each investigation 5 times. Explain why she carried out each investigation 5 times. So that's to increase reliability or get more confidence in her results. Or you could say to verify or check her results or identify anomalies, or to get a mean or average. But it's more to do with increasing reliability. Interpret the results to identify the types of radiation emitted. So 2 marks here. So the fact there was, you talk about the results. So say that the thin aluminium barrier caused a drop in radioactivity. So it was reduced, and it was reduced further by lead. So aluminium reduced it a little bit, but lead reduced it even further. So that means that because lead reduced it even further, that gamma must be present, and the fact that aluminium reduced it a little bit means that beta must be present. So you can say that lead stops gamma, and therefore gamma must be there, and aluminium stops beta, so beta must be there. Zach uses many appliances in his home. Look at the information about the appliances he uses the most. So you've got a kettle, a vacuum cleaner, dishwasher, heater, cooker, fridge, freezer. All the appliances use their 230 volt mains voltage. The currents shown are average values. The heater is only used at night. Calculate the power rating for the heater in kilowatts. So power, if you look it up in your equations at the front, equals voltage times current. So, and that gives you the power in watts. So that will equal 9 times 230, which gives you 2070. Remember, that's in watts. To have it in kilowatts, you need to divide that by 1,000. So that gives you 2.07 kilowatts. Next question says, calculate total energy supplied to the heater in 1 night in kilowatt hours. So you've already worked out that it's 2.07 kilowatts, and it was on for 12 hours, so you simply have to times that by 12, so that gives you 24.84. If you worked out a different answer for the last question, but you times it by 12, that you'd still get both marks here. Those are called error carried forward marks. So whatever you worked out for the last answer, if you multiplied that by 12 to work out kilowatt hours, then that'll get you the 2 marks anyway. So it doesn't have to be 24/84. Whatever you worked out the last answer, multiply that by 12. Zach pays 12p per kilowatt hour for electricity usage during the day. He pays 6p per kilowatt hour for electricity usage during the night. He is considering switching to the same cost for day and night of 10p. This would not save him money. Suggest reasons why. So, first marks were saying that the heater uses the most energy and is only used at night. So, the fact that the heater uses the most energy and is used at night is the first mark. Second mark is saying that it's cheaper to pay just 6p than the new cost, or 10p is more expensive, or you could say the increase in price is 4p, which is too much. You could say that the saving of 2p on appliances used during the day does not offset the increased cost of those used in the night. And if you did calculations and compared them, that would also get you the marks. This question is about photocells. Describe how light produces an electrical current in a photocell. So, first mark is saying that the energy is absorbed by the photocell, or the silicon, or the crystal. So, energy or light is absorbed. Electrons are knocked loose, so that's the second mark. And then those loose electrons move, so the idea there's an electron flow gives you the third mark. And then the final question is a 6-mark question, so please mark this yourself and ask your teacher to check your marking if you're unsure whether you marked it correctly. And now add up your marks, put it on your poster, and have a go at the next paper for me.